They're talking about the
I understand that. You know, I can understand Texas.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's why it's so important too, that everybody works together on it. Yeah, because they won't get implemented if it's not agreed. I know. It is late.
Okay.
Do you want to make any opening comments? Yeah. Take what you think.
That's true.
Yeah. Probably not. Okay, so I just, okay. Up to you.
You've already been introduced before.
Okay, all right.
I'm not gonna even. You just want to. Everybody needs a water or anything?
I need one.
Yeah.
You're such a good guy. I don't know. Welcome back, everybody, and then those that are new, welcome. I'm Dan Sepko. For those that most of you all were introduced last time. Eric Craycraft, Eddie Haas with our firm. Thanks for being here. I got a short presentation here that I'm going to run through, and then I'm going to tell you what I think would define success of our meeting tonight. And so you'll help me get through that. We get through it in 15 minutes, we go home. If it takes us 3 hours, we're going to stay 3 hours. So there you go. All right, so tonight, what we wanted to do is just have a quick review of the process and then a presentation of the revised goals and objectives. Most of you remember that you had some homework. We appreciate all those that sent the homework in. We revised or didn't revise based on the input that we received. So we're going to go over those. Then we have a few concepts that we wanted to just to get everybody to think about tonight. And then some group discussion, trying to get you all to tell us if you are on board with the guiding principles and the strategies or not, and then our next steps. And so that's what we're going to talk about this evening. So I thought what I'd do though is let me run through the.
Dan, can I interrupt 1 second?
You
ask
bet,
this question.
Rick.
As far as the portal, is anybody running into any troubles? Because that's to me such a key component to this whole thing, and just our primary repository for all this info. I just want to make sure that everybody's been able to get on and they've taken advantage of that. So I see a lot of north south heads. Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. So this is, yeah, I don't know who the chairman of this is, but I think we went into that already. All right. So, okay, just to recap. Remember, we had an open house and then we had some interaction with you all. And so here we are on May 18th at this meeting. Our next meeting was scheduled for August 15th, but after some thought, I think that based on where we are with everything, we're probably going to have an intermediate meeting in there. And so we'll get back with you all on a date for that. So you can kind of see where we are in the process here. So to recap, remember on the first meeting with the CPAC, the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, we spent some time going through a SOAR, strengths, opportunities, aspirations, results. We had that exercise and we went through, and that was what we used as a springboard. Then we had our open house. It was what we thought well attended. If you remember that night, it was pretty brisk. It was a chilly willy night, but we still had a good turnout. And so we also had a lot of participants on the online as well. So far, we've gotten started off with a lot of good participation. Then we came back to you, talked about what we had at the open house, and made further refinements and took a crack at coming up with some goals, guiding principles, objectives. So that's sort of what's been done so far. And at that first meeting, if you remember, we asked you to make any changes that you felt appropriate for Port Aransas. We made some changes at the meeting, and then we also gave you some homework. We appreciate it. About a third of you sent in your homework, and so that was really good. So what we did is we revised the guiding principles based on the information we've got so far. And so we could go back through these, the information's on the boards, and so we can go back through this here in a moment. I'm just trying to set the big picture and the big stage for this evening. Okay, so we want to review the changes that we've made. We've had the highlights and strikeouts on that, and they're on the boards. In fact, later on, if we want to make changes, we got some markers. We can make any changes that we want. We also have a map that we have identified some information and concepts. So we're not here to the recommendation phase yet, but we have information that we think is important to inform some of our discussion as we go along. For example, where the undeveloped wetlands are, our coastal dune areas, the wetlands, and then actually on this map, if you can tell, the little purple area is the area where entitlements. Entitlements mean that it's either, it might be vacant today, but it might be zoned or approved in some way. Sometimes it's zoning, sometimes it's platting. When you drive down the road, it just looks vacant, but we call that entitlements. So when something's entitled, it's kind of hard to take that away from a legal standpoint. So as you can see, we've started to try to make sure that we understand where the entitlements are. And without getting into all the details, you can see that if this is the city limits right over here, you can see that a lot of the area in Port Aransas has entitlements. And so there's a little vacant land left. And then when you start overlaying the dunes and the wetlands, you can kind of see that we're getting a little bit short on developable land across the big picture. So we have this map, and we want to use that to inform any of the discussion that we want to continue on tonight. If you remember, at the last meeting, we had quite a discussion about what is Old Town and what is Town Center. And so we think that maybe there's two different things. And so do we have a town center and do we have an old town? Some of you I know were part of an original study that identified this area here. This is what was done. This is just facts. This was done a while back. I don't know the exact date on it, but this was identified as the Old Town Preservation Zone. And if you all can remember the discussion, there was some discussion about how many historic structures are really left in Port A. And the conversation moved to, well, it's not necessarily historic structures, it's a historical character and scale that was also important. So we probably need to have some discussion about if we're going to sort of be thinking about a town center and or an old town area, where that might be. And so we think they're two different things. So we have drafted, and we have up here on boards, and we have it on the screen here, of all the goals that support what we've been talking about. Also, there was this discussion about short-term rentals, as we finally refer them to STRs. And so those exist. That's a part of your community, and you have a lot of them. How many do we have, Eric? A whole bunch, like
More than 2,000.
Over 2,000.
2,700, is that right?
something. So,
We don't know exactly.
don't know exactly, but a bunch. Okay. So we have those. We also added all kinds of discussion about workforce housing, housing affordability, which we really call workforce housing, being able to have places for firemen, school teachers, things of those types of employees. We still want a quality looking community, and how do we strive to achieve that? Connectivity, we got transportation issues as well. And then we even talked about some infrastructure things. We came up with a list of draft goals, if you remember that. And then that all is kind of where we left off. Now, I'm going to back up here, and what we think a success for this evening would be. Here's where we are this evening. A successful meeting in our mind would be for you all to tell us that we got this right. You should have all got it in a packet, right? You all should have a chance to look at it. So did we get this right for Port Aransas? And if we did, here's what that means. If you tell us that we did get this right, this is what the goals, objectives, and the guiding principles ought to be for our comprehensive plan. What we would do then is go back and begin to draft recommendations to match up with all these. So the reason we're asking you about this is that if you don't think this creates a picture of this community, then we don't need to spend a lot of time drafting recommendations that aren't supported by these goals and objectives and guiding principles. That's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to set a big picture and charting the path to the future. I'll give you an example. One thing is the marina. I'm sure we all have heard about the marina. Well, here's where that is, we think, is Woody's is, I think, going away, right? I mean, it's been bought, and be making contact. So there's one. So then that leaves only one place as, quote, a marina where people can buy gas or other things that are related to a marina. If that ever goes away, then there is no place for, and I think that we're not from here, but as I can tell, there's a lot of fishermen here and a lot of people that need gas for that kind of thing. Not to count.
And bait.
And bait and all those kinds of things. So here's what I would say. This is coming from us. Is I think we need to have a recommendation in the comprehensive plan that a marina be built and where it ought to be built. But it's kind of like a cake. We're making a cake. I think we need to say, okay, here's where the cake is and here's what the ingredients are. I don't think we need to have to bake the cake. I don't think we have to have a square cake, a round cake, cake with icing. I think we just need to have the ingredients in the comprehensive plan and everybody agree to the ingredients. In other words, we need to have a marina and where it needs to be. And here's what it should have. It should have a place for this, this, and this. It shouldn't have this, this, and this. Maybe it doesn't have condos for living. Maybe it's all something else. I think that's the recommendation that needs to be in the comprehensive plan. And then somebody else can figure out what the details are and what the cake's going to look like later on. But we got to get the goal and the recommendation in the plan, if that's the community recommendation, or not. And so part of comprehensive planning is we need to set the big picture, the goals and objectives. We have to have the basic recommendation. We don't have to design the marina tonight. We're in this plan. So everybody with me? So that's why this juncture of where we're at is so important. And so if there's something on here that we don't agree with, and the we really is you all. If you don't all agree with this, then we need to know. We're off base on it. We're trying to craft this plan for you all. And that's really, really important. It doesn't need to be our plan. It needs to be your plan. If it's not what you all want, you're never going to follow it. So that's what we need to do tonight. So I probably need to quit talking, but you all need to help us decide where we are tonight or not. Yes, sir.
Just one thought on the marina. I know there's been years past, there was studies, hydraulic, water flow, and impact of trying to make another marina out there with the suck that tanker traffic creates and everything else. So, I mean, that's a great plan, but I think, somebody needs to, I think you almost have to do a feasibility study to really find out with the hydraulics of that channel, it wasn't 54 feet at that time, there was less traffic, all these things. So is it even in the realm of possible? So
Sure it is.
Yeah.
Well, engineering,
remember, we had the feasibility study.
it's an engineering solution and
Yeah.
and you can solve it.
Yes, we had the wave study and we had the feasibility study of the marina, which is shelved. So now, does it need to be looked at, tweaked? Possibly.
I mean,
Because
what I understand.
I think the study showed though there was a problem with the bullet,
There was no outlet.
The suck.
Yeah, but
the suck out,
but they talked about brakes and
fix it.
trying to think of the term, the water feature term to accommodate that. So all that's in the study. The big issue is there a demand? Is there a need for one?
Yeah.
Another.
And if there is, what does it need to look like? Does it need to include housing? Does it need to include brick and fuel?
That's right.
It's 26.
And I had a second part to this was there's that piece, which is like the grand slam, it all of a sudden somebody wanted to come up with $1 There's that piece, but there's the nominally undeveloped north side of the existing harbor that has some potential to be kind of a cool place, but right now, I mean, there's some good green space, which is lacking around here.
Are you talking about this area?
Our existing marina here.
Robert's
Yeah,
Point.
Robert's
Point.
Point.
The Robert Point Park, the park side of it. So we
We don't own it though, just remember.
Yeah,
We just don't own it.
yeah.
We're the benevolent recipients of the port's generosity.
So, if there was the ability, and I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there, could we gain back some of those features that we, either, we lost, obviously, we lost through, to many, many, many years ago, planning that allowed basically the marina to be a private residence on city land. Things bizarre, all the condos.
It's just a function of what we own. And
Yeah.
that's right now we own the 67
Right.
and it has a marina permit. So
But,
I guess the idea is, should we talk about what's perfect, what
Right.
we'd like to have?
Right.
All
but
the
should we,
issues.
There you go.
And no doubt, you are right. There are some engineering issues, and engineering issues cost money to fix. Okay. But what we're trying to say here is this is a long-range plan, and should it be in our long-range plan or not?
I would say that yes, it belongs in a long-range plan, but I also think, so we don't end up screwing the pooch, not planning a little bit, in the 5-10 year range, that could things be done through the love of the board? Is there any way to
Well,
do
Robert's
things
Point
like
Park's already kind of designed, they used.
I mean,
What is it?
And actually, we're interviewing for harbor master right now, and part of the interview recognizes the fact we're almost at full capacity now.
Right.
So we have like maybe 1 or 2 slips left that are semi-spoken. So we're full. So that's reality.
So John, what are you thinking about?
I mean, what I get-
Rent somewhere, or
Yeah.
what are you talking
My
about?
point, and I was trying to get to it multiple times, unable to get to it.
All right, we're listening now, we won't talk.
So, as an example, the town I grew up in, had a marina that's probably about 2.5, probably 2 to 3 times bigger, probably easily 3 times bigger than here in California. Years ago, the offside of the marina was just kind of a wind blown, and there wasn't much over there. And then somebody had the foresight to say, let's develop this to where it is, publicly accessible. There's no residential development on it. It's a very nice boardwalk. There's probably, right on the water. So there's the rock and a boardwalk that's probably 10 feet wide, 12 feet wide. And then a series of shops, boutiques, galleries, restaurants, things like that people would actually come and use in a really nice environment, outdoor, I mean, it's just that section, and again, I don't know world. It's just, I think, we're building that nice new harbor master's office that could be a real nice anchor to further develop that if it can be done. I think it's something that we're considering.
I just think we're constrained, we're just limited in what we have. And again, that's the pleasure of ultimately the council. Do we give up that green space? Do we give up the park for more slips?
I don't think you'd have to, well, no, it's not for more slip.
Well, for a more vibrant marina.
Right.
Like I said, the slip, right now, we're full, so there are no more slips. So it's what does that marina want to look like?
So I wouldn't want to put stores and restaurants out there in great space.
Isn't that, yeah, but did I just understand that that's the port of Hooper's property? So
The water component, the marina itself belongs to the port. We do not own it.
okay, so I'm sorry, I was not in previous meetings, but do you have an area that's already designated as a possibility or potential? I know years and years and years ago there was one, but
Right, we have the 67 acres, which has a current Army Corps of Engineers marina permit. That's the difficult part to obtain
That's,
in this environment.
on this map, it's about right in here.
okay.
Yeah, in the hallway, there's actually a photo, like a
That's right.
of what the idea was several years ago.
That's right.
It's
And-
beautiful.
It's a great idea, and I don't know if that's in other words, what I've got to get from you all is I'm not so much worried on how it looks. Now, that is a good photo, but that's a good image of what it could look like. But I don't know if it should. I want to back up, and I want this group to tell me, yes, we need it. It doesn't have to look like that, and there's a lot of design pieces to it, no doubt, that need to be thoughtfully worked out. But how are we ever going to move beyond that in terms of community consensus unless we can get folks to say, yes, we need a marina. It can be here. Here are the ingredients. It needs this, this, and this, but it doesn't need that. That's really all I think we need to put in the plan right now. Get the council to adopt that. Then the process can begin about design, engineering, hydraulic solutions, cost, all those kinds of things.
Are we stuck on that one area? I mean,
Well, do you have another idea of another area?
I hate to say this, and I'm one of the first people to tell you, I know they're not, they won't because we've already had discussions with them, but then again, things keep changing every day.
Things
And I
do
want to
change.
come back to Harbor Island, you bet, leasing a portion of it from the port for another marina. And I'm not saying that it's not, it's doable, and they can do it if we can figure out a way to convince them, look,
And
I
you
just
know what?
think it's actually a perfect location for a multitude of reasons.
But the caveat though, because they
still own it.
Well,
They just
well,
own
but
it.
you don't want-
Leslie, I think you're talking across the channel.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's still the port, the.
They
that's
own
the
Are you
port
talking
side.
about over here?
To go to the harbor, you have to go across.
Are you
Yeah,
talking
but
about,
I'm there trying to be fair in anywhere.
They don't-
okay, here, right in here?
Yeah.
And that's not, you know what, we could even have two alternative locations. And part of the recommendation in the plan could be, we need to evaluate, this location and that location. And I'm even willing to do that if that's what we think we need to put in the plan to do that. So you all tell
Might
me.
get more cooperative people on the port in the future, so it's important. I have a feeling a few of them are fixing to get booted, so.
So I tell you what, let's just start
Yeah.
back at square one. Okay, do we need a marina? A new
Yeah.
marina. Okay, is there anybody that thinks we don't need a marina?
I question whether we need a new marina right now or anytime in the near future.
You don't think we need a marina at all?
Well, we have Island Moorings, that's a private marina, but it has availability. And,
Dredging issues.
well, and you think this one won't?
But it's private. We're talking about for the public, for the taxpayers.
Yeah.
What do the taxpayers have? They have our marina, which is at capacity. So Island Moorings, I just we make sure we're all understanding, that's private. And that can be sold and closed off, just like Woody's was. And that's, to me, the big dynamic right now that we gotta recognize is that.
Boats can trap there.
that
Oh, we're
we-
spending an awful lot
You
of
just
money
don't
to
have-
build a new harbor master office and many other improvements at the existing marina. Why are we doing that if we're planning on building a new marina?
How about 10 years, 20 years?
I think that's.
So here's the question.
I think you have to say if needed,
Right, here's the question that we have.
when needed, yeah.
Do we all agree that Port Aransas is born and evolved as a waterfront community?
Yes.
And we are chipping away. And I'm an old guy and I probably don't, I'm not gonna be around here 25, 30 years from now. But we're chipping away at what we've always enjoyed as our waterfront resources. And recognizing now that they're private, they're not ours. We have a marina that's in capacity leased from the port. We have, here's the other operative piece to this. We have we have 67 acres that has a marina permit right now from the Army Corps that will probably not be able to be obtained again, that will expire. We will lose that and probably never be able to have the opportunity for that land again. May not be this cycle, but probably within 5 years, that option will no longer exist. So the timing is something that just has to be, it is what it is. I'm not making that up. So it just is what it is. And so those are the facts that we have. We are a waterfront marina community that's born from the fishing area.
So that gets to the time.
Yeah, so that's just it. The marina we have is leased, it's not ours. And the resources around that are private, they're being sold.
We've been renewing that lease though for quite a, or that, permit for quite a while, so why are you saying in 5 years why can't we continue to renew?
You know, you
Because
have to
that's
wait
the
so many
experts smarter
times.
than me, said the Army Corps, they're gonna say do it or not.
Yeah.
And
But
we're
they
not gonna
never
keep
did.
issuing it. Joan's been involved in those discussions for several cycles.
But we want to bring it up, we'd like it to be a nice district with a boardwalk, like transient slips. So,
Yeah.
we want a place where fishing tournaments can possibly
Like the
anchor in the
RV.
future. Let's move.
Dan, the issue now is it just, does it go up on the board, we send it to the board for further discussion? I'm
Well,
not saying we're gonna go out and build it.
if we can't decide tonight, that's okay, but everybody in here by their discussion knows what the issue is. And yes, there are problems with any alternative that's been mentioned. Cost, there's timing, but the way this works is that I think that we gotta at least put it in the plan, whatever it's decided, in some general way that can be, discussed in a public forum with the public and get it on the map. Part of all this, the way it works is these public agencies, if it's adopted in the plan, the highway department works like this. That's the way highway improvements get done, is the highway department's not gonna come in and do what we're doing here. You're not gonna have highway text on a person come in and do this, because that's not their job. They want public consensus. So your council, whatever they adopt, is what they listen to. They're not gonna listen to you individually. They don't do that. I think the marina is the same way. There's public agencies involved with this. You're gonna have to decide whether you want it, and if we wanna pick several locations, that's fine. But somewhere along the line, we gotta get this on a map and say, this is what we want, and this is where it ought to be, or these are 2 locations we ought to think about. Or not. And then don't do it. But if these things take a while to get done, and if we don't get something in the works now, you're gonna lose that window. And that's fine if we don't want it. We can spend our money elsewhere. But then sell the land where the marina is and do something else with it, or whatever. And so that's what I'm wanting us to decide. Like I say, I understand there's a lot of details, a lot of engineering, but we got to start with the goal and the objective. Is it something that Port Aransas needs? We put it on.
This is
Tell
kind
me.
of complicated, but I think that land is important to have. And the marina could be planned there and put in our plans. But we could also use part of that land maybe to make some more affordable housing apartments or something like that. Because there's a lot of space in there that the marina's not gonna take up. Maybe that would make it more palatable if it might be a dual kind of use.
And that can go in the ingredient part. It
Right,
needs to have slips. It needs to have a non-residential market, retail, places for cool people, cool places to go and eat and watch. I mean, you can say what you want about the area that you have now, but people like to go to the place like, well, Bend. I mean, people like to sit there and look at all them boats and always have and always will. And so you're gonna have a place like that where people can go and do that. That's fine. But do we want that or not? Just tell me. I mean,
thanks.
okay.
I mean, just hearing the outcry when a private individual sold his private property that had been a long-standing, iconic marina facility, given that outcry, tell me there was a whole lot of people that didn't want to buy it, but didn't want it to go away. And it was private, and that's just, I mean, just, it was a huge outcry, that just tells me
And this would not be private.
this would be public, yeah, this is the, yeah, this is for the,
So you
this
can
is for our
plan
public.
it, you can lease it.
We owned it.
So
That'd
is
be
that the
nice, too.
recommendation to ask that the city pursue feasibility, affordability? I don't know
We've
what
got a
the
lot
words
of
are,
pieces already.
for an additional marina in Port Aransas, and then kind of, I mean, do we have to decide on the location
If you
tonight?
don't want to, we don't have to.
I mean,
and-
that's what I would say, because I don't think any of us have all the most updated anything. And that would be my recommendation, is to say that we as a group would like to see the city pursue.
And we can list,
Public marina, whatever.
we can list a number, if you want to, we can list a number of locations.
Yeah.
We list 4 locations that should be considered, and somebody can come in with more detailed engineering studies and decide which one of those is best, if you want to do it that way. So,
I really wonder if it wouldn't strengthen it, the ability to continue getting the permit if we already have, a long-range plan.
It was part of our company's plan.
that's gonna be
Couldn't hurt,
working on.
certainly couldn't hurt.
Then it would be easier to get renewal of
Must be nice. Order and
stuff.
all its own.
Of the permit. It would help them.
Yeah.
I would say it would help.
Are we taking a vote on this?
Moving on.
well, I tell you what, I gotta have consensus. Now, consensus means that not everybody agrees. But, we've got to move on. Am I putting this in or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Now, okay, that's done. We're gonna write it in there, and then y'all will gonna get a copy of this, and you can tell me if we got it right or not. Another concept is that, it used to be that, a long time ago, that, the entire 361 corridor was all zoned non-residential. They changed that in 2010, and it's now residential, but one of the things that we came up with was that there probably ought to be 3 or 4 non-residential nodes along 361 and the rest all residential. And you got a couple of spots for it. There's already one down here, I think, started at City Limit Sign. And then there's a couple of locations here, and then there's maybe one that's back up in here somewhere. We ought to designate those on the plan, and then that's where your non-residential nodes are.
So would that
Yes,
be
ma'am.
commercial
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
business?
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
Sorry. Non-residential is just a global
Okay,
kind of,
I
yeah.
was seeing parks with trees.
Are you talking retail?
Yes, ma'am.
Retail and strip centers, basically?
Well, non-residential could be a lot of things. It could be entertainment, it could be restaurants, it could be stores, things like that. Probably everything, but not industrial.
Whatever the owner decided to do residential, that would be, that'd be a reasoning.
Yeah.
Because usually if it's commercial, you can have everything underneath it, including residential. But when you
Well-
try to say that you can no longer do this residential, that's not the owner's plan, I think.
Well,
That could
all
be a
things
litigious event.
is
Well,
C1.
that moves, right now the demand is residential.
You're talking about 361, Highway 361?
Yes, ma'am.
And you wanna put, I'm sorry, even I'm gonna say, it. During the summer with traffic and everything, and you wanna put strip center businesses right there on 361, we already have a.
Okay, well, let's think
I'm
about
just
it.
saying, we get a terrible bottleneck and everybody knows it, I won't even leave here, I don't even try to drive Island Road or anything during certain
Yes,
times at all.
so the planning concept is that if you start to shift, if all of your commercial activity and all your stores and commerce is in a very finite, there you go, finite cluster there.
All right, so let's put it all right
You're
here.
making the argument as to why that should be a consideration.
Yeah.
That you spread out that commercial activity so you don't have everybody.
I would agree with one spot apart, you know, I don't want.
So what are those nodes zones right now? Can anything go there right now?
Right now, with
Residential
the
or
given
not?
demand and the trends, that would all be residential
Residential.
housing.
Okay.
But
So-
zoning wise, it could, it's TR, most of it is TR bidding,
Which is.
Yeah.
Hotels,
Hotel.
multifamily,
and then the hotels can have some commercial
Density.
aspects.
denser residential. The commercial aspect typically for the benefit of
Of
the complex, of the residential use complex.
hotel and restaurant.
So you could have built something out there, like a Nexan, if you wanted to put it out there. Like they do.
It's commercial.
So it's,
We need more commercial areas.
I thought TR, doesn't the TR include commercial?
No.
What color is commercial?
well,
It's not-
we don't really
That's
have
not
a
our
map.
zoning.
We don't really have a land use map yet. I'm just trying to decide concepts here, what you think. We'll try to figure out the details for you. If you think that we ought to just have some certain nodes with retail and the rest could be residential.
Because the idea is that that property is going to develop, whatever constraints, but regardless of what constraints occur in the next 20 years, my feeling is it's gonna be substantially residential, which means if all of our commerce is in Dan's little grassed area right there, then all of that, in addition to what's already built, is gonna move into town.
We have to have
It
this.
is all gonna be there.
Galveston Island has a lot of similar examples. When you go down the island, you have gas stations and markets, so people don't have to drive
Yeah.
all the way
Right.
back into town to get
Yes, sir.
sundry.
And so the people that are in town don't have to deal with all the people that are coming in.
And really, I'm not trying to sell y'all on a new concept. A lot of places that are linear like this have nodes. They try not to have it all one. So it's not a new planning concept. It's just kind of a way to have some idea. Let's cluster the non-residential, and then that way, if here's the marketing part of it. If you just let it all happen wherever it's gonna happen, you're gonna have a whole bunch of little things going on here. But if we say, okay, this is where they're gonna be focused, they can be bigger and maybe more interesting and have more variety. And then the residential is what supports all that. Or the tourist industry is what supports all that. And so it's a way to get maybe more larger, interesting, more marketable areas that we maybe don't have all those places right now. So that's the idea. That's the planning.
Well, and then
I'll add protecting the very compact part of Old Town, protecting some of that from.
We're gonna get to Old Town here in a minute, you know, but
we need the businesses too, also for a little bit more robust economy. It needs to be a little bit more diversified. If we don't have commercial areas and it's just all residential out there, you know, if we do need a little bit, in my opinion, that's, need a few more businesses. It does need to be a little bit more robust.
it's a way to try and get some market a little farther to the south than maybe that you have now.
We can't have our heads in the sand, and the south is gonna come to the north also. I mean, so all of those along Corpus Christi way are gonna go that as well. You know, the same thing with the marinas. It's one day we'll be full of all of that. Protect ours, so
But I already plan to make it larger.
Because that's all developed down there. Getting off the island during a hurricane is going to be a real nightmare.
It is.
but it's not gonna be any better if it's all developed with additional residential areas
Yeah,
too. It's gonna be the same situation.
You're gonna,
I don't know how to change it.
Yeah, I
4,000
mean-
more houses down there.
yeah, not develop it is the only thing left to not do. I mean, you don't want more, then let's say, okay, we're not gonna add it.
At some point, we'll get the traffic, I mean, it's a good question, and and I think we'll be able to get some TxDOT traffic studies that show that we move a lot more cars than you may think, and to answer the question, TxDOT is large enough that there will ultimately could be 4 lanes, 2 lanes each direction. Right now, they've got the passing lanes, that was the short-term gimmick.
Seems like there's right
Running was
away.
allowed, so that's why you have the 2 passing lanes on either side. But those areas, other than a few wetlands that are further south down 361 into Corpus, they're a little challenging to get that other lane. Rest of the area can have 4 lanes, so at some point, we'll probably become a 4 lane.
Like, the people that own all that land already, I mean, how does that work if you're changing the zoning? And it's a lot owned by the.
It's been
golf
changed
course,
several times before already, just,
Yeah.
so it changes, been changed already.
It's
Exactly. Well, so,
it's an issue, it's a process.
yeah, but if you're going from a less restricted, I mean, a more restricted from that.
So,
You're saying you're giving it more.
Here's the dynamic. It
But
was-
they don't have to do.
Right.
Yeah, it was just said, some people think that the market is more valuable as residential, and some people think the market's more valuable as non-residential, retail, gas stations, entertainment. So it kind of depends on the market. Right now, across the state of Texas, the market is residential.
Yeah.
Now, that's everywhere, but that's gonna change. It will for a number of reasons. It always has. It's gonna go up and down. But right now, there's a housing shortage. So that's where it is. And it's affecting Fort Aransas as well. But that'll go up and down. It always
You
has.
can build homes in commercial.
According to our zoning.
So then we should probably do it. It's not gonna cause significant landowners grief. They can do whatever they want. And we just let us and
But-
choose where it's.
Just remember, planning doesn't mean everybody gets to do what they want to do.
Right.
I mean, but I don't think that, this is my personal philosophy, I don't think cities should dictate the market. They're not good. I think cities need to create a framework for development to flourish. And there's no market for retail everywhere. There's no lot of benefit to have residential everywhere because it affects your tax base. City doesn't make money on residential. Costs you money to make. All residential costs you money. You don't make money on residential. You make money on non-residential. And that's pretty well proven. And the reason for that is that they're less intensive users of public service. Non-residential doesn't use the libraries, all kinds of other things. And so the trick is what kind of balance is right for our community here. It's different for every city. But the idea here is not to load up on one kind of thing because someday that thing may not be worth the market. It's happened there a lot of places.
You mean don't put all your eggs in one basket?
That's a simple way to put it.
So you pay for growth, the city has to go somewhere.
Right.
If it's
So-
go north, it has to go south.
So we're gonna create a plan here that guides, right? That's what we're trying to do is guide. And have all these facilities, these ideas. If, you know, we could sit here and say, we don't need to do anything, just let everything go, but you're gonna be here in 10 years with the same discussion. So we've seen it time and time again. The plan at least gives a framework for public discussion of where you need to go. May not everybody agree on every single thing, but at least it provides a public forum to debate important issues that affect the community. That's what the value of the plan is. So that's what we're trying to do. Public's going to judge whether the plan is right for Port Aransas or not, but we need to have a plan. So that's what we're trying to get to. Yes, we've got to have an implementation part of this. And for example, if we said that we needed a marina, you know, maybe the first part of it's a feasibility kind of study. But the next part of it might be, let's build the thing in X number of years. And then you can begin to work on how you finance it. It seems like something like that would have a lot of private sector participation. Cities can do all these, we call it 3P, public-private partnerships. So yes, it's an expensive deal. And when you build that culvert at the other end, so the water has a way to go out, I don't know what that's gonna cost, but it's gonna be a lot of money. But that's not what we do. That's not the way America was built. If we didn't do stuff that cost a lot of money, there wouldn't be anything built in America. It all costs money. That's right. I mean, and I gotta tell you, we've been doing this a long time. Our company's the oldest engineering and planning company in Texas. It's over 100 years old. So we've seen a lot of this go. And most often,
You one of the founders?
I wouldn't. But more often than not, public officials are criticized more for not doing anything than they are to do. Very rarely do people look back and say, man, I wish we didn't do that. I think that was a mistake to do that. More often is you're criticized for not doing something. And people look back in 10 years and say, well, we wish we would have done that 10 years ago. It's always that way. Every city we work in, we wish we did it 10 years ago. So I think that we should put some aspirational things in the plan, let them be debated, and if they're not good ideas, take them out of the plan. But at least there's a path forward on all the things that you'd like to do. Or not, and just let it do. But one thing's for sure, if you don't have a plan, it won't happen. It will not happen. Because it will all be debated and it'll be mixed up. So anyway, all right, so I think for right now, we're gonna put this node concept in there and y'all can look at it when it's written up and decide if it's worthy or not.
Are those the specific locations you're proposing? Is there some rhyme or reason to that?
Yes, it's what's left. that didn't have entitlements. Yes, that's correct. There's one over here that we actually can't see it, but it's on the edge, but it's already started. There's already a little one there. So we would have one there, these two, and then I think.
Can you say, like, okay, I can see that that's Cinnamon Shores, I guess, there with all the houses and everything on that one.
You'll make it get out of glasses.
This one here is north of like
What's
Royal
that
Sands.
connection?
Nicole, point that out. You have glasses.
What am I doing?
Where-
What do we ask?
The landmarks near those nodes.
What's this right here? This
So
is
this right here,
Cinnamon
Gold
Waters.
What is that?
This is Cinnamon Shores North.
And the Pioneer, is this the Pioneer's RV park?
Okay.
City limits.
That,
Right here.
And so you have two of them now, right?
yeah, but the other two kind of were already started, so we would continue with those. Yes, yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And where are the other two then? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to.
Big one right there.
Yeah, I think,
Real big.
yeah, right, there's one, that's been approved, but they're already approved, I forget whether it's here or there.
You mean an island? But, funny.
No, that's already written.
Yeah, I was curious because the one that's sort of being developed now, the Texan and around that intersection,
Yeah, oh, that's way over.
that just seems like a really bad place to have.
But
a
it's
whole
there.
lot of commercial
If they're about,
activity.
one was, right here in the middle of the old golf course, right, where there's the nine holes, the other nine. But, there were plans here for a commercial node at the entrance there. And
But they
then
aren't gonna do that.
also down here where we see the gate.
Oh, at the entrance into,
Yes, at the,
In the entrance of two Palmetto.
inside,
Inside the
Property.
where they put the golf course at.
And then that on the very end, that would be where La Mirage is, or that is city limits there, right?
yes, Lumber Road is right at.
So that's where that one is.
Well, it's.
And that was already started there.
Started in since
Lumber Road is right here.
permanent.
Yeah,
It's gonna be like right here.
Yeah.
Cinnamon Shores north or south.
It's dark, yeah. And then this is Cinnamon Shore South, and I think we're talking this side.
all right, so in the spirit of moving along, we'll show those and then, see if you all think that that's how it ought to be shown on the plan. All right, now let's talk a little bit about town center versus Old Town. Okay, so this was the map that was created prior to our effort. And remember you all asked about that last time?
It was 17 or 18.
It was 17.
Thank you.
August 17.
Okay.
But all they did
All right.
was just say, okay, here's the town.
So there was a discussion that generally encompassed, do we want a quote town center or an old town?
And the Old Town Center. I like that, you know.
Yeah, but that's what you all want. But here was the deal.
Well, that's
So-
what it is.
So to us, it seemed like even on this map here, there's a different kind of character along Allister, Cotter, that's included in this, or, and in the residential areas. And so then it kind of went into, remember we talked about the church and all that, we talked about whether that's the center of old Port Aransas. Do we want a center of the community or not? Or do we want it to be Old Town? And then there was a question about how many historic buildings are really left? Few, but not a lot. Okay,
There's more than everybody realizes.
okay, well,
This is true.
okay, so the question is that we thought maybe there's two kinds of areas here. There's an an old town area, and it could even be separated by, a street, but maybe there's an old town area, and that's mostly a residential character kind of area. That just, and maybe it's not historic, but maybe it's more of a character area. It just, it needs to have low rise. It needs to have,
Landscape.
you know, things like that. I mean, it's not a non-residential area really, although I think some of that's allowed by right. But really it's a low scale, kind of, not low value, but low in scale kind of area. And it's not gonna have high rises, it's not gonna have, you know, that kind of stuff. And so somebody, we even say it's 3-story limit. Okay. And then, but it seems to us that like along Allister, that that's a different kind of a deal. I know there's residential along Allister, but there's gonna be a lot of non-residential too. And it seemed like kind of a different area. And so then that kind of morphed into a discussion of where the town center is. And is that the area here up along Cotter to where the ferry, you know, terminates, where the ferry terminates? And is that the town center? Okay. So, okay, all right, okay, all right. So just telling you, that's what we're thinking. So now, hopefully that's enough information. This was the map that was done in 2017. And so what do you all think about an area that we want to identify with these characteristics? And the reason it's important is we might change the zoning to reflect that.
I'm curious, where do we stand on buying that property?
We just bought it
On
today.
Allister?
Okay.
So now we have some property that is in what we were talking last time about town center.
Okay. So
And we talked about that being a park or a, you know,
It's vacant now, right? Is that piece that's vacant?
We just bought that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the community center and the historic museum is there. So that's all on Allister.
And that's the town center.
it'd be a
I
great
don't
place
know,
for
but
a
that
town
is
square.
introduction to the town
Yeah.
center.
And
That's okay too.
Gibbs cottages, I mean, those are historic. I mean, if you look across the street, there's, I'm sorry, Angler Court, whatever one it is. And I'm sorry,
Angler Court.
Angler Court, those are historic too. I mean, there may not be historic like,
That's on Allister.
but that's all now, it's all right there,
But it's replaced all these cottages.
you know?
Couldn't,
But
not
it's
as
still-
much anymore.
Couldn't town center be like
Well, they did
Allister,
cover
up
it
into
to the
Cotter? I mean,
Well, that's the way we have it drawn.
Well, that's where that Mippies property is, sort of toward the end of Allister, close to Cotter. Not too far.
I mean,
No, it's right across the street.
But they kept the original stuff on the gut.
And I envision that to be kind of a welcome to Old Town or the Town Center or whatever the hell we're gonna call it. Kind of a gazebo there. I think it should be welcome to Old Town.
That's what it's
or something. And then park. So that's what it's.
So that could be the town square or the
Yeah.
island square or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
Town square, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much for the year. I think it's beach and Cotter. Makes sense too.
Where you could have small little community events and things.
Well, that's the thing, if you, now Galveston, not to say that 4 days like Galveston, but if you remember, they have some areas like that. They have that area down there on the Strand where they have a big chess thing and all that. But you can say what you want, but those kinds of areas are fun for people to visit. And you need a place like that here that people can visit and do, and then maybe you could have, you know, in the summer, I guarantee you with as many people that you have here, you probably do it now. You can have concerts and amphitheater. Maybe it's a multi-purpose thing where you could have a stage where, I mean, you know, maybe George Strait doesn't come here, but maybe John Conley does, you know.
But people hate all the noise.
Well,
But we
They've done
do,
that at Roberts Point
that
Park.
takes place at Roberts Point Park a lot too.
Okay.
Right. Robert's Point Park.
Well, you don't have, I mean, I'm just giving you some examples that maybe these multi-purpose areas that people gather to do stuff, maybe you have maybe you have an an artist sale. The artists aren't very loud, you know.
It's a music overlay already, right over there anyway.
Okay, well, maybe we don't,
Yeah,
maybe the music overlay is a
no,
bad
that's,
idea.
but that's
but-
what I'm saying, which is good, we have that in place, and it seems like a lot of the businesses are kind of starting to put an emphasis on having restaurants and other establishments in that area.
Because if you think about it, since you already own it, that would be an affordable thing that you could do pretty quick. I mean, it wouldn't take much to try to figure out what kind of a public space that would be.
Landscaping, those.
I mean, landscaping, but I mean, it would be,
It's gonna be a lot of parking.
Yeah,
Parking.
well,
I was just gonna say that the parks and open space master planning is happening right now. I work for the Parks Department. Anyway, and we're also discussing this, space. There's gonna be largely open space.
And I'm on the old town committee thing, and we're discussing all this.
Just trying to get people involved.
well, I'm glad we got everybody here.
And we're thinking about, it's possible to close that road right there.
Yeah.
And make it this whole
Brown.
big area.
Brown Street.
That part.
It's,
Portion of
Yes, the one where-
The life of the own property.
That would go to where the-
that would be nice.
in between. They don't have a great one.
So we have a downtown. Is that what you wanna know?
Yes, I mean, yeah, where is it that,
G or B. Well, let me go. This one.
It's out of y'all.
Oh, you're right.
I like it. I
Yeah,
think
so
biking pedestrian, your flow of traffic pattern.
It's from direct. Right? Yeah. Oaks. Oaks, part of Oaks, it's Oaks.
But there's
Maybe
really
I'm
not much.
behind.
Yeah, Roberts.
What would be the difference, the designation between town center and Old Texas? The reason I'm asking you town center, how did that cutoff rate was.
well, very good question. We were thinking town center might be a little more than Old Town, which seemed to us to want to be more residential. Whereas town center would be restaurants, entertainment, and maybe condos, because there's probably some there now, or at least on the harbor side. That was the difference. But actually, we asked the same question of ourselves: is what were you all trying to do? What were you all trying to do with that? And not that was wrong, but what was the intent of a lot of that? And a lot of that's got Cotter, and along Cotter is a lot of man, there's all kinds of souvenir shops and maybe tattoo parlors and eating places, and it gets up to where the Tim's is and all that. And so it seemed like that was more mixed use or non-residential rather than some of the areas like south of Allister, all that area in there was more wanting to be, and we created these pockets. Shoot.
Well, maybe we can
Okay.
change the boundary of Old Town. How about that?
I don't know how to point on this thing. Oh, wait, look, I do know how to point. Okay, so what we thought was, this is the boundary, right, Erica? We did this,
Right.
okay, so this, can you see my little cursor on there?
Yes.
This here is the boundary, but we were thinking, like, this area right here is residential. This area in here looked to us residential, but then you looked at this area here, all here, and somebody said wrapping it up Cotter. See, that all looked to us like that's more town, Main Street Town Center area. And so that's what we were thinking the difference is, but
Well, I think we should change the boundary.
I'm gonna have to disagree that, I'm looking at where your arrow is for that town center, and where is that? That's like, right,
Okay,
It's
well,
right across from.
I'll buy that, then, okay, then the question is, since you brought it up, is it?
It's not just where the arrow's pointing, it's the
Right,
whole
it's
key
all the
area. It's all the meat.
Yeah,
Well, but that's not, I mean.
well, this is just a, wait a minute, maybe.
You're not saying the town center is where that arrow is pointing.
No, you get- that's our fault, we just labeled the boundary. I'm sorry, we should have done something different, but this is the old town boundary.
And everything inside.
And then, but what we were thinking is that this color here was more, this area here was more like this area in here was more like the town center area.
Well, how about further down?
And then but this area here was kind of, the reason it's a different color is we thought, well, it's along Allister and it's kind of a different character. So tell us where it is, or does it go and we don't have it at all? I mean, I'm willing to.
We do all the parades and everything come down Allister from, Beach Street down and to Cotter and then back up over to Station. So, that's gonna narrow out a lot of area. In my opinion, that's gonna be somewhere where the heart of quote town is, because that's where everybody lines up for all these parades.
Right, and I never really understood why they put it on Avenue G. I mean, that's just crazy. It should never, if I see something there at that time, Rock Cottages or something. that was-
Right.
Oh,
Actually, there were some things there.
but now they're all gone.
But
So
there's
we
still a
should
bunch of older homes on those streets that were done a long time ago.
We gotta find where the old parades were.
On Avenue G.
Really, look down, the old parades.
The old
Where
parades?
the old parades were. That old
When were the old parades?
We're gonna use parade, the boundary,
This is
like this parade. Marches.
They go down station to C, come back from Allister. Or if they were extended to G.
It would encompass.
I think most people live there around the center. Now, it's probably more in the center.
It's inside as well.
My house is inside.
Yeah, we did.
So you keep pointing up there saying that.
Well, it says, Old Town, low.
That's what we're here is to give a different perspective, and maybe our perspective's not right. But you were here to correct us.
It's not that it's maybe town center.
You need a better chair.
You know what I mean?
I guess I was just.
Okay, all right. Class. Get to me. We're getting, no.
Get it back, get it
All
back.
right.
There's a gavel up there.
Everybody's talking, can't get it. All right, so help us out here. What, I think by the discussion, I'm thinking everybody understands this probably better than we do. And so, first of all, do we have two areas? Okay, so we're gonna have a town center area and we're gonna have an old town area. And they don't necessarily have to be contiguous. We could,
Why do we want to do that? Why are we complicating this by?
because they're different characters. In other words, the old town, now, you need to correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm wrong a lot. But the old town area would be wanting to be more residential in character. And the town center areas would be more mixed, but wanting to be more non-residential, like along Allister.
Why would we
That's just me, but
Why would we put a name to it?
I'm
Well-
guessing it's just so that it has different regulations.
it would have, but they would have different zoning regulations if we did. In other words, we designed the zoning regulations in the old town area to maybe be more restrictive, maybe less non-residential, maybe some things like that. And then the area along Allister would be more non-residential and mixed use. So anyway.
So here's what I want people to think about, is that long-range planning isn't gonna wave a wand with a colored brush stroke like that does and change things. What it does is sets into place a plan so that, heaven forbid, we have another hurricane, or over time, when one building is torn down, there's regulations in place, so slowly I use the term a lot, you steer the ship. But if you don't start this way, that characteristics, let's face it, Port Aransas historically has been a hodgepodge of a lot of crazy eclectic stuff. A lot of people love that. We're trying to change that, and I don't care what happens, you know, like I said, that's, but whatever that is, it's not gonna happen overnight, but it sets into place a framework where that it will evolve, and if we want a town center, if we ever want a town center, I don't, again, doesn't matter to me one way or the other, we'll never get there if we don't put into place a framework that allows us to get there over
That's right.
10,
And
15,
here's
20
how it
years.
works. When developers develop, where do they go first? They go to the staff. Every city, they go to the staff and say, I want to do this, can I do it? Now, sometimes it goes on and they go to council persons and all this. But the political leaders, which is the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council, have a better reason to debate issues with developers if we get it in a plan on what we want it to be. Now, I've never developed a plan that wasn't changed. Planners aren't that good. Once we set a plan, but here's the way it's used. What we do is say, okay, this is the plan for Port Aransas. Now, you tell us why what you want to do is better than what we have in our plan. Then the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission can make an informed decision that's better for Port Aransas. That's how it's used. But that at least gives you some offense about what you think the direction and the vision is for the community, and you're not always on the defensive, which is a lot of what you are right now. You're coming in and people want to do stuff, and you're trying to figure out why you don't want them to do it or why you want to let them do it. This at least sets the vision of why, okay, we think Alistair ought to be this, or we think the marina ought to be here. Now, somebody else wants to put the marina, well, you tell us why the marina goes in this area and it's better than this area. Put it on them, because we're not that good to be able to project out in the future saying this is the way it's got to be. But we have to have, I think, a vision and a guide to be able to understand the big picture, which you'll never do looking at each individual zoning case. You'll dissect it, you'll look at ingress, egress, you'll look at the drainage, you'll look at all this stuff, but you'll never be able to see the forest for the trees. And so that's why we need to have this long range thing. So Rick's right, it's not going to all change, but at least it gives a policy direction and discussion of why we thoughtfully figured this out. Yeah, maybe we're wrong, but we can change it. All plans get amended. I don't care, you pick a city in Texas, all of them have changed. Anyway, that's my lecture. I'm done.
Go to Georgetown, Texas on a Saturday night. They have a town center, people out and about, tourists out and about, spending money, doing their thing, and then they leave. But then there's residents close by too. They live there full-time, commute in Austin, and they love it because they can walk to dinner. We don't have that, but we're so close in the area that you're talking about. So I think everything can work harmoniously together.
Right.
Where we
I think Georgetown's got a great plan. They got a great plan. I can't
I
think.
guess you got something to do with that.
We did have a plan. But anyway,
It's awesome.
Yeah. yes, ma'am.
And excuse me if I honestly, I think that Old Town needs to encompass a larger area than what it does. I think we might be a little short-sighted on this.
Okay.
I think, because when we're talking about development and zoning and whatnot, we always talk about 1A and cut off road. I think that we are really pigeonholing ourselves right now doing this small little area. I think, like I was just telling Rick, I have a house from 1966, which that's not terribly old, but it's not new
That's
either.
probably
It's
as
in-
historic as it gets.
It's
about
inside
it's
the
about
cutoff
her
area, yes, but what, in 20 years, is that old? If it's still standing? Well, why are we doing this? Because I'm thinking in 20 and 30 years from now,
Okay.
when we're thinking Old Town, we're gonna be thinking this whole area, we're gonna be thinking everything that was inside of the cutoff area. When we talk to people like in zoning, like say with the development out in Palmilla and Cinnamon Shores, a lot of people aren't too terribly concerned about it. It's like, oh, but that's out there. people think of this as a different area, I think that it needs to be a larger.
Okay. So we
And
need,
I'm just saying from a zoning aspect, it just, the way I look at it, when we're talking about, say, there is a storm and we're talking about development later on and stuff. If we have some architectural standards and we're inside those areas, that's all I'm saying. I just think that we maybe should look at increasing the area.
I agree completely, and we talked about it at our last meeting, of that area, the sort of the residential, the old residential protected area going to Beach Access Road
Okay.
1A
all right,
and to the cutoff road. I mean, what regulation are you gonna have in that little blue section right above the pink that you're not gonna have in that other residential
Like this
part
area
right above
here?
it? Yeah.
or,
I'm talking about up, but I'm just saying, why are you cutting those residential areas out of future low-scale residential regulation?
fair enough, I can.
Yeah.
We didn't get their area quite right, but I can't tell you why we wouldn't do that.
That's what I'm saying, when people
I
are
just
thinking about
happen
it.
to have this in the car for a totally unrelated reason.
That's great.
This is 93, but, you wanna quote know what Old Town really is? This is really kind of the loop of Old Town, you know? Now, there is stuff in here that isn't as old, but all this heart of Old Town is all this. This is, when I told you about, Beach Street going up here, this is where the parades come. They come down here and then they go back down here and they loop around. So that's why it kind of makes sense to have our town square somewhere in that loop. But just so you know, this is actually one of the coolest, if y'all have never really looked at this very closely. This was a Harvey. I found this right after Harvey. It was a huge pile of stuff, and I actually happened to step on it and I decided to unroll it. Couldn't
Well,
believe
see,
it, but this is,
okay, so, but y'all are describing the qualities, let me give you a realistic example. Now, if I had a boat and I needed a place to store it and I needed a place to work on that motor, and I needed a business and I needed a boat storage area, and I wanted to have it, right here.
I would.
Is that okay?
No,
All right, so that's kind of an example, is that somewhere along the line, I think we're gonna have to adjust your zoning to make sure that this area that we expand, and I'm all for that, but if we're gonna expand it, are we just talking the talk, or are we actually gonna do something to be able to preserve this character that's precious to us? And, I like boats and I like working on boat motors and mini warehouses and sheds and all this other businesses that support. But is that, we want more of that going on in there? Is that what we want?
Not in a residential area.
Okay, all right.
Because-
I finally got something to say.
Because what we have, unfortunately, is mixed uses where, I mean, that's what we're bumping up against right now. We've got all these STRs in the middle of these established residential areas all over that, you know, all the way to Beach Access Road 1A and Cutoff Road. It's that whole area in there. But if you're looking 10 or 20 years down the road, that should be the part you're trying to preserve.
Okay.
Residential, I would think.
So we need to-
the old dumpy trailer parks, that's something we're gonna be focused on, our Old Town thing is whatever you wanna call them, I shouldn't call it that, but I'm just saying,
Well,
these are the little skeleton out of code places, and we're kinda gonna be focusing on including something in our deal to protect those.
so here's the input. We need to look at broadening out the Old Town area, and like I say, we don't have to call it Old Town, we can call it our residential conservation area. Whatever it is. So let us look a little more detailed about that. I don't know that we have to draw a line, but you've given us some notes already on where the edges are. So let's do that. So so we're gonna have a residential area, and for right now, it's just called Old Town, but we may broaden that discussion. Do we still want to try to figure out, and I know about, we're working on the tract of land with the park, but do we want to talk more about the town center concept of this or not?
And the idea is to make it walkable or something.
Well, okay. The only thing that we've thought about is it's more non-residential. It's got more mixed uses than just residential.
It's pretty taken up though.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, but it's gonna redevelop.
It's taken up.
No, he's right though, it will change.
It will change.
It will change.
It's changing.
We need
So I have a
better
question.
sidewalks and bike lanes.
Speaking, well, when I think about Old Town, I don't only think about homes. I think about like that corridor having a look, like an architectural look, like there on Alistair, you know, there's not giant buildings and things. And so I don't, in my head, like Old Town isn't just homes, it's both of those things working together in that area, but I don't know,
Agreed.
maybe that's just.
I agree.
That are overbuilt
I agree.
things.
And so maybe Old Town and the town center type development has different land uses, but they still have a scale and a look. But if it gets so strung out, I'm agreeing that maybe it shouldn't be called town center. Maybe we just call it, we call it the corridors, you know, we call it Cotter or we call it McAllister, McAllister. And maybe the town center's not, maybe we're on that wrong rabbit trail. I don't know.
Corridors.
Corridors.
Yeah, the entry corridors.
Corridors.
Yeah, right.
Entry corridors.
When we did the new landscape ordinance, you know, everybody
The
agreed.
entry corridors.
Nice.
That's right, people got here. So it was like, which is great, because they were talking about signage, walkways, you know, for routes,
Okay.
yeah, the
So-
entry corridors.
So we don't really need to have a town center. We're gonna have the public square or the open space or whatever it tends to be. But we don't really need to have the town center. Seems like it's distracting from the conversation. I
think the only thing about the town
Is that
center.
right?
Yeah.
But what she's saying is we still have guidelines and we still manage the scale and the character of it. It just has different land uses than
And
This
it's
area.
technically be part of Old Town, I mean,
it's within it.
it's
Yeah.
within.
It just has different land uses.
Yes,
See, so
Old Town residential, Old Town business.
Corridor. Yeah.
Old Town Business Corridor, you know what I mean? Okay.
And then that same idea of that historical
Yeah.
character, some of those things that we don't want giant box. We know there's.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, branding standpoint. Pretty sure there's no residential.
Well, you know what? That's part of what we ought to include in the corridor. I'm agreeing.
And I also think it should go south of the station because it is all business.
Yeah, but what, the only defense that we have is we thought that this, shoot. Okay, this development along these corridors was a little different than this development. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it just, but you're right,
But not in residential.
right. I think we should have, I think the best idea has been this corridor, identify the corridors. And we'll do it. Okay. All right, we got 35 minutes left and, I promised that this is like, what else does the committee class, you gotta have. I'm gonna gavel. I don't wanna use the mayor, yeah.
Go ahead.
Cause you know what, if you don't like in this case, you know, you can't fire the mayor, but you can fire the consultant at your meeting. But anyway,
She's technically here right now.
But, all right, so we talked about, I think, some pretty important issues that we've got. So here at the end of this, are we close on these, notwithstanding the discussion we had? Are we close enough on these guiding principles and these goals to get started working on some more detailed recommendations, inclusive of the discussion we've already had? Eric is taking good notes. Or is there more, what do we miss? Tell us. Yes, ma'am.
One thing I'm curious about how it fits into all this is the new proposed access road next to Cinnamon Shore. You know what I'm talking about?
Our transportation planner.
Yeah, it's part of the transportation
Yeah,
plan
yeah.
to
Eddie,
alleviate
but he's-
traffic in here. I mean, if transportation is part of this whole
It
thing,
is.
that ought to be a part of it, because that ought to relieve a lot of congestion.
Yes. And we've actually, the short answer is yes. We've actually even, have the little turn lane here. We think the turn lane, y'all said this.
Yes,
That really needs to
it's
go.
critical.
It's critical. And so, yes,
And then it would be there by Cinnamon, or by one of those nodes, right, or not.
Yeah,
Further to south.
right there.
I think that's-
yeah, that,
And should that correspond to a node, since people are gonna be turning down there anyway?
yeah, we see it's blue, excuse me, purple, and so I'm not sure we can.
Someone that's planning for something already.
Cinnamon Shore owns that land.
And once it's entitled, we can't take it away or take it.
So they can do whatever they want to.
Great.
But the road is already. Yeah, that's correct.
But the road is there.
Yeah.
But we can put the road in. Yes, sir. What do we miss? Tell us.
But we'd like to add one thing, we've been talking about that entry corridor, and you know, and I think.
Wait, the entry corridor from this area or up
That
here?
whole thing, but yeah, I mean, the entry corridor from town center, whatever you wanna call it. so
Up here.
The ferry,
The
Okay.
pink,
so the
pink.
ferry. and
The big area, this right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to get.
Has anybody even looked at the state of Texas cultural district initiative? There's grant money in it, and there's a bunch of really cool stuff. I mean, here's the things that it says it'll do. Attracts artists and cultural enterprises to the community, that's a pretty good thing. Encouraging business and job development, that's pretty good thing. Addressing specific needs of a community, it goes in all these things, but this is an existing program. We used to have a lot of artists in Fort A. We're losing Brenda with Potters on Cotter. You know, we're losing, she's done. So all of these things that we used to have been supplanted, you know, it was sped up by Harvey, but, you know,
But now you get so much money in your land, you might as well sell it.
yeah, and you can't blame somebody for
So you
doing
can't
that.
blame,
But
that's
so
right.
why don't we at least consider? You guys
Okay, we can look.
voting members.
Last one I did was in Lubbock. We created a cultural district there. We'll just have to look into that. Yeah.
I think it's worth, you know, driving that into the plan because it's a structure. Somebody's already done the work. There's a framework and there's some grant money for the city.
I think it had to meet quite a few requirements for it to get that designation,
Yes.
because I actually looked into that, and I think that Reed fell short on it on a number of levels.
Right.
Because, yeah, I looked into that on its own.
Yeah, in Lubbock, there was a pretty big push between the university and a bunch of others. They got, but we got it in a plan.
Oh, yeah, no, but it's.
Hopefully
a
that
lot of
town square
requirements.
area
Yeah.
can be a cultural
Yeah.
district.
We have a music district, but we lose all of our revenue.
Let us,
Yeah. I know, it's-
let us look at that. Yeah, but yes, we'll look at that. Put that on the list. What else did we miss?
So a lot of your.
Wait, we got so many flags. I hate to tell council members to be quiet. But, all right, so, okay, now what was your comment?
So a lot of your bullet point JVCs under the goals are very short term, and by the time this comp plan is done, many of those things will already have left the gate. So when or when not include us as part of that plan. I think we're being kind of short-sighted in the ABCDs that will be settled by the time this comes to the plan. On a lot of fronts, in particular, the signage program that we're talking about, some of the park master plan stuff that's going on.
Good, you're already doing some stuff.
Some of the background and how the coding on some of the short-term rentals, a lot of that's been accomplished. So much more to go on, and if it's something else we want.
Now's the time to get it. Leave that.
I feel like a lot of them, by the time, are we 18 months out still, or 12 months?
Oh, I think,
That's
I think we're still trying to get it done, what, after the first year?
April, right?
April?
April's the plan.
Yeah, so,
But then
no,
that's just advice.
no, yes. Yes, you may be started on some of these, but no, this is not the last chance. If you got some more, those that did the homework, we looked at all those and.
I think what he's saying is that it's gonna be already out the gate and done by the time the
Good.
plan
But it's
comes
not
out.
good.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good, we're doing stuff.
Already done.
But, yes,
That's right.
but I do agree that the plan ought to have a combination of short-term and long-term goals. We talked about that. Clearly, the marina is a long-term goal, but there ought to be things like maybe it's the square or something that it's good to have short-term things to do, and that's what we'll have in the implementation. We're gonna rank these. Say, these things should be done first, these things are later. And so, but yes, we're gonna flesh these out, but yes, if you have some other ideas about some longer range things that we should be doing, now would be the time.
I have one,
Yes, ma'am.
resiliency, we're not even touching on that in any of this about, I mean, when we're planning all this build and everything.
I think y'all are gonna have more
We're
flooding.
gonna do resiliency, we're not gonna make it another 40-something years like we did last time.
Well, and there's sea level rise coming up as well, so.
But I say resiliency after a storm or whatever happens, that's something that we really aren't like paying attention to. Some of the deal that's going on in these, quote, old town neighborhoods or whatever we wanna call all this, that are not part of the planned unit developments, is we're having all this build out on property that has historically been wetland or whatever, and is essentially a retention pond for all practical purposes. And then we're going in, we're filling in this stuff, and we're creating a more issue with, quote, flooding and resiliency issues on some of this. So I don't know where in here we're addressing any of this. This is something that we can't build out every piece of property and not suffer the repercussions by damage of
A lot of
people around us.
I grew up here 50 years ago and used to be able to take a boat down Allister Street when it rained because the whole center of that town would flood.
That's because we used to have rain.
Isn't there,
It will rain again though.
And
No,
the holy
you
end
know,
there,
we had rain after Harvey and the kids, they were being pulled by a truck on wakeboards.
But not for
down stations.
But not for days.
not for days. I'm talking Allister Street flooded right there at beach, and Allister would be 2 feet deep.
aren't you doing a drainage plan?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, there are improvements, and even though it's been building more, it's still, they've got a plan, and they've done drainage, and if it doesn't fill with sand, it actually works.
Yes, resiliency and flooding go together, and the more you build, the more runoff, and then that coupled with, how do we be more resilient against natural disasters like hurricanes? I don't guess y'all get tornadoes here, but.
With
Only with the hurricane.
Only with the hurricanes, that's right. Only with the hurricanes. So what's the difference? But anyway, yes, I think resiliency is something that, we need to at least add that discussion to the plan on what the current state, what's best practices right now.
So last year, we did a stormwater master plan and pre-submittals, I'm sure. I hope that you guys have seen that.
It's being updated.
Like, okay.
And it's being updated.
There was a lot of good stuff in there, I don't want that to like.
And it's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Because the development's got a, there's all kinds of, low impact development ideas and all kinds of things, but a lot of these islands, the whole thing's a floodplain. It's just the way it is. But yes, that's being updated.
Well, I think that plan needs to be included in.
Yes, it needs to, they're not mutually excluded. They're actually, Sarah's working on that of our group and they're also wanting to see what the direction of the plan is too, so they can better understand all this development has runoff coefficients. And so they can better understand what we're planning for, so they can better understand what the drainage plan ought to be.
Well, I think that one thing we put it all off, waiting for this
Right.
plan.
Right.
So I don't.
And
want to
rightfully
keep
so.
putting it off.
That's good foresight. But yes, they are waiting for us to have, I hate to push y'all on this, but we need to do something.
Well, then our goal, one of the goals that I think I even mentioned, I don't see it in here, but wrote it down or whatever, it's like you just said, we need to come up with, other options when it comes to what you call low impact type development. In other words,
Low impact. Well, it's
assuming
like,
that means it's certain ways to get the water filtered through the ground instead of.
So that's it's kind of under the old LU3.
yeah, and some of it's pretty simple, like instead of the water running off a building in the parking lot out in the street, the water runs off the building into a landscape area. It's pretty, it's not magic stuff.
Kind of the general discussion. With my goal. I have a question, so behind the dunes, there's all these basically ephemeral wetlands.
Yes.
And it's all privately owned. And I know this is really complicated because it involves the Nueces tax district also, but I think it's unfair that I feel like those people, their land is being valued at just the size. So say they own an acre, but it's mostly very important wetlands in the dunes, but they are all of a sudden their taxes are super high because now that land is worth $1 million. Have you done it? That's a good value.
How can we?
Well,
no,
they'll give you credit for something,
okay.
any part of the land that's not developable.
Yeah. But some of it is being developed now, so I'm wondering if there's any incentives for those people, it's kind of like a estate style home, with a large land where it can't be, say that house gets tore down and they replat it for multiple lots. Because it's worth so much. I don't know, I'm just, where I'm getting.
Yeah,
Yes.
Either you can develop on it or not. Now, it's just like a city that is not on the coast. You can't develop all the floodplains. So you buy all that, this doesn't mean you get to do,
Oh, they dig
Well,
sand.
what you want. But these sand dunes are very environmentally sensitive. You talk about resiliency, you get rid of them, you will have a problem.
Gonna be
But-
recharged through there, that's what I'm.
You're gonna have a lot of open space in this community, whether you even know it or not. There's gonna be a lot of area that's not developable. We have it mapped, the area you can't develop. We hope.
Well, and on that would be the green,
Blue.
the
You
blue,
blue, right,
and the yellow coastal dunes, because of the dunes
a
protection.
lot of area.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but,
where we need drainage to go out there.
so, yes. All right, so what else did we miss?
Goal LU5, letter C, I don't think any of that belongs in this plan. I could be wrong, but this is trying to slanted for STRs, environmental, those are some ideas, I suppose, but why would these?
Well, we put stuff in there to see if somebody read this stuff.
So I mean, I don't think the larger hotels would incentivize.
So we're gonna require local ownership of STRs. So we're gonna say that somebody that lives in Bryan College Station, they're good Aggie, can't own an STR in Port Aransas.
Yeah, right.
Now, somebody suggested.
We can say it.
Well, this is, so somebody sent that in, and I don't remember who it was, and don't even say. But we didn't put that in here. The consultants didn't add that in there. You all told us this.
I don't think we could do that.
Yeah, I don't think legally.
So I'm just saying, it doesn't matter who you are. So, I was waiting for somebody, I said,
It's not us.
I don't even know, I don't even know if that's legal.
I don't
It's not.
I don't even know if that's legal.
Not in Texas. It's done in other states.
And so, so I don't know if that should stay or not, but you all were trying to listen, and nobody told us to take it out
Take it out.
until somebody actually started studying this. That's how important this is. Y'all need to study this.
I have a follow-up question to that. So I don't disagree with taking out C. So if we take out all of these potential additional things that we have in here, what are we doing with goal 5 that we wanted to add last time? We wanted to have a specific goal about addressing the short-term rentals on here. So you want to take all of it too? What, do we want to get rid of 5 and take all these out, or is there something that we want to do differently?
5 needs to stay. I don't
Five
think
gotta
it's a
stay.
burning problem right now. Incentivizing hotels to offset demand, there's nothing wrong with that. That's legal, but requiring local ownership, I don't think can do that.
But, stranger things have been done. There's a lot of changes going on with, for example, the hot tax. Everybody knows what the hot tax is?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's hotel occupancy tax.
Oh.
Okay, and under the state law, you don't use it for special things. But your, Attorney General for the state of Texas, I forget what his name is.
Yeah.
But what's happening is that there's a move across the state to change the hot tax, that a lot of that money could go to the marina. You could fund that marina through hot tax. So, stuff like that. So, rather than saying, I think there'd have to be a law change on this, but if it's important and we need to put it in there, we can put it in there to say, investigate. I'm just trying to give the person that sent this the benefit of that, but we could put in there, investigate the benefits of a residency requirement for STRs. I don't know. Now, I am also trying to filter this through the lens that, frankly, if y'all don't want to do this, we don't even put it in here because y'all aren't going to do it. So why do we have it in there? And so, but this is not our plan, it's your plan. What do you want to do with this?
Why do
Why would you
you
take it out?
Why do you even assume that a local owner would do any better than a non-local?
Well, they're here. and-
Because it would be here if they would.
Well, you get, that's right, you can horsewhip them, because you can't horsewhip somebody in College Station, but you can find them here.
Nor can you do somebody that handles 3,000 short-term rentals. You can't get to them because they're.
Right. That's a little aspirational, but
So I'm not
Trying to
sure.
be retarded to.
I don't know how you do it.
20 years from now, I'm not sure STRs, aren't gonna evolve into becoming more like Florida in terms of retirement homes. And so I don't know this middle of the frenzy we're in right now is sustainable. It's gonna stay that way.
And frankly, we love them. Every time we've come down here, we've stayed in an STR, we stayed in one tonight.
But you don't have fireworks and you're not through, and you're not talking.
Well, they like us because we're businesses and we're old, we don't have parties.
Plus there's only 3 of you, not like 25.
Seriously, it's true.
They ruin your neighborhood.
But all of them got 3 bedrooms, they got their own bath, we love it.
Maybe we should just say you can't make noise, you can only be good people.
But I think A&B, like noise regulation was on there. I mean, I think A&B is great.
Okay, well, see, maybe we leave A and B.
I mean, I'm no expert, but I don't think legally a lot of those, and I think we'll be spinning our wheels because
So we're gonna,
it's like,
How many you can own?
in Texas.
Yeah.
Kentucky, they do.
But limiting the number of STRs at some point may, I'm not saying that's what we have to do, I'm only looking at this from the standpoint of, you know, it's just an infrastructure issue, it's how many people can, if we had everything perfect, how many people can this community actually handle?
well, you might look, here's what you could do. You might look at other kinds of requirements for your STRs. For example, greater parking requirements. Stuff like that that really makes sense. In other words, you're gonna have a 3-bedroom, 1 unit that has 3 bedrooms and 3 baths, and you know, let's look at us, we got 3 different people. Now, we carpool, but you could have 3 different cars. And so you better have 3 cars per unit for parking requirement on every STR.
That's what we have.
Well,
Right now,
I'm saying, what car, maybe it's not enough for me, but
Per bedroom.
Per bedroom.
that's what I meant per bedroom, yes. And so maybe we look at things like that, that start limiting that. All right. So we think that, under goal 5, we need to look at paring that back. It sounds like to me. All right, nobody's saying no. Okay.
Wait a minute, the last 2
I
items.
like the incentive for larger, for ourselves.
All right, let's just go back. Okay, let's go quick. We don't have much time. Okay, so let's just take it. So we're not gonna require
A lot of B is already.
yeah,
happening.
okay, but we're not gonna require, that's what I meant. Oh,
Yeah, but we don't.
we're not gonna require local ownership. No,
You can't.
gone. We're not, are we gonna limit the number of STRs? Okay, no. We're gonna incentivize larger hotels to offset the demand for STRs.
I'm gonna have to say yes on
Yes.
that one. I think that we need to be looking at religion. in some
Okay,
way.
that one stays for right now. Limit the number, or percentage of dwellings as STRs.
That we can do.
That's what everybody wants.
Okay, so let's just, for right now, let's keep the last 2 and get rid of the first 2. Yes, sir.
It's going up to B, it says approval by owner, what? And that says that's in the existing requirement, what does that mean?
If Nicole doesn't know, there's something.
Oh, Erica knows the answer. Tell them the answer to that.
Whoever owns the property has to approve it being used as short-term rental. So if I'm a long-term renter, I can't just sublet as an Airbnb. The owner has to.
Probably want to like clarify that.
Yeah, we need.
I'm too old to know what that means on Airbnb. That's something we.
These are all rented.
Okay, all right, so let's call that good for right now and move on. What else on here that, what else on here that we don't like or should change or we missed? And you can tell us to do more work and we'll do it for the next time. But what else, we're running out of time here. What else did we not like or what else did we miss?
Go EF2, why do you just not contacts, are there other reasons?
Yes.
Why is contact?
What you have a lot of.
The sales tax, what the sales tax.
I mean.
All right, well, we'll broaden that out. Yes, let's broaden that out. I agree.
EF2.
Good idea.
EF2.
We have a student that gets a gold star because he found all the tricks.
Oh, the
All right, so what else? Yes, ma'am.
There's a lot in here about prioritizing pedestrian accessibility and trying to encourage people walking around instead of everyone driving. But to do that, there has to be parking. And so I see you've got 2 little places there, but that is not going to be enough.
I think
Really
that's,
encourage them.
that's an interesting thought in that, I'm just telling you, we've been around here, we've taught, we've been going to restaurants and we've been listening, we're learning. And somebody said, there ain't nobody that walks here. They either have a golf cart or, I don't know, I don't see too many bikes, but nobody walks. They all have these golf carts. And so there's not much walkability here.
That's
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with that. I see people walking all the time up and down Allister. It's like the.
I think the point is it's the perception that
And
people have because it's not blockable.
Yeah.
If we did have more stuff, then a lot of people's perception of what's going on.
More front loaded business.
Yes.
Exactly. Sort of people get out.
Yes.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Eddie.
Transportation section. So we want to more formalize some of those connections. You know, using some of the Avenue Cs that connect down to, oh shoot, I had it. Avenues, well, not to A, but back down to Beach Street, using lesser used streets to formalize some of the active transportation. In other words, trying to get as much of the beat of the golf carts, even though it's open system, trying to emphasize some of these other corridors for golf carts, get down to the beach. Avenue C down to 12 to G, use that versus having them on cutoff down Avenue G, just trying to free up some of the capacity, if you will, but at the same time, increase better safety, accessibility, offer the more travel frequency.
And limit the number of golf carts.
You're pretty good,
You
you're
you
residential.
got 40, what do you got, 4,200 now?
Well,
Let's limit it to 5,000.
There's a balance on that.
And
There's a balance on how we do it. Right now, they're everywhere.
Put
it'd be
5,000
really
limit.
difficult to get them to stay off the main
There
road.
you got that fixed.
We're over
And
5,000,
up
aren't we,
it, up
Nicole?
at 5,000, up the fee on it. And then there's gonna be there'll be a market, developers will buy and sell those plates like
I
gold.
think it's a great idea.
There has to be some limit, some upper.
Well, you could say, well, you got what, 42, was it Nicole, 4,200 now? I mean, give or take, 4,200 plates.
I mean, not probably the 2022 yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
You want more cars on the road?
Yeah, so you want more, it's a double-edged sword. We've been watching this, there was even a traffic fatality that we saw here yesterday with a golf cart.
Yeah.
And,
Not a fatality.
oh, not a fatality? No, it was just an accident.
I
was.
So,
I was.
It was our own Eddie got hit by a golf cart.
fine.
But I tell you what,
It's not the same, but
it's about $3,000 worth of damage, you know, so.
So nobody's hurt.
Nobody's hurt, that's the main thing.
That's what's
Right,
fine.
so,
everyone's fine.
so it's a double-edged sword, so if we have less golf carts, we're gonna have more cars. Or if we have more golf carts, have you been behind some of them? Some of them drivers, you know, are worse than car drivers, you know? And so the skill set for driving a golf cart's like, how hard can it be, you know? And people drive like that. And so you get slow traffic, you get behind them and they're driving 5 miles an hour because they got all the kids piled up on there and they want to be, but,
10 minutes.
Don't get the kids driving.
well, the kids aren't supposed to drive.
Well, yeah.
That's funny.
Under the law, you know, you gotta have a driver's license.
So some
So-
rentals are not renting to anyone under 21.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes, but your dad goes and rents a golf cart and.
and let's little Susie drive it, yeah. I used to live in Georgetown, I mean, in Sun City, Georgia, and I tell you what, we were sitting out there in front and you could tell it was the granddad and the little girl driving a cop pulled them over, right in front of our house, so we saw the whole thing. And you should see the embarrassment of that grandfather, and the policeman said, you know, Does she have a driver's license? No, she's only 13. Well, she can't drive that golf cart. She has to have a driver's license, your learner permit. You can't drive a golf cart unless you have a driver's license. And of course, he didn't ticket them or anything, but you could tell the embarrassment of granddad had to get in and drive her back home was worth, that was the penalty, is the embarrassment of it. So yes, you're right, the dad.
The thing is that most people with golf carts also have cars.
So you're
So-
doubling it.
You know, you
Becomes a
really are
parking
doubling the number of vehicles. Right.
Well, anyway.
Remember the beach is open, it's open, so you're gonna have folks coming in.
And then, of course, we're gonna park them all here, we're gonna park all your cars here, there's gonna be a private ferry that comes
Hey,
across
that's a
here.
great
and then-
idea if we could convince them. It's a wonderful thought to do it that way.
I like people to think we have good ideas.
No,
So, anyway, we have a private ferry here, and that ferry's gonna come over, and it's gonna shuttle everybody over, and you're gonna have a golf cart, it's like a car rental at BMW airport. You're gonna have everybody come in, there's gonna be a center to get your golf cart, and then you can drive anywhere in your golf cart, and your car stays over here.
It's a great idea.
Because we heard the people parking, of course,
Everybody comes down.
where do we put it?
Into the golf cart, as well to their SDRs. And then decide that they want to go back across the ferry, because they didn't wait long enough the first time, so they're gonna do it twice.
Well,
No, we don't want that. So say-
we don't think that I mean, nobody's ever gonna say no to it.
Just limit the number, everybody else.
But yeah, one easy thing is when you learn, you could, if you had, we're just saying a number, we don't know the exact number, but, we could look it up. But say it's around 4,200 plates. And you say, all right, you make it 5,000 is the limit, then all of a sudden it becomes a commodity that's bought and sold, but then you've limited it.
But you can, it's a lottery. You put a limit on it and then it's a lottery and whoever drops out, then it's a lottery for the next person that puts in. They do it all the time and other stuff.
So by that year, I might not be able to get my golf cart license next year.
No. You maintain yours and you're fine. If it expires, you don't renew it, say after a year, you get thrown back, it gets thrown back into the deal for a lottery draw.
If you
They do
live
it all
here,
the time.
you pay $50. If you don't live here, you pay,
We already do that.
Yeah, we do that.
or maybe raise it.
Yeah, all the rentals.
Well, anyway, okay, so
Right here, right?
we got off that, sorry.
No, you're good.
But anyway, all right, what else did we, we're running on our 2 hours here. All right, so, we're gonna have another meeting, but,
Wait,
What?
that's one thing. I wanted to tell him that I liked his idea of having corridors and people, but some incentive to do that, like, is there
It's a great idea.
what do you call it, where you try to find treasure?
Treasure,
Yeah. Scavenger, I mean, like something.
Little snow cone parks along the way and,
How
about if you park your car on the other side, you get 2% discount for hot tires, for the inconvenience.
Okay. Strength one, that was one, and then maybe it's aligned with some of there was an idea about raising the permit for the parking on the beach, $12 a season versus $12 a day.
Maybe if you park over there, it's free. I don't know,
Yeah.
but you could, that's what we're talking about, is putting some of these ideas in there. And these are short, you're right, these are short-term ideas, but I think the plan should have that, as well as some long-term aspirational things like the marina and maybe some others. So we need to have both. All right, so how close are we to, do y'all want to send some more in? What do you want to do? Do you want us to go ahead and start fleshing out some of these ideas with recommendations, more detailed recommendations to track this or not? What are we doing?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. And I heard one go ahead. Anybody says we don't go ahead?
What's the agenda for the next meeting?
well, and could we get them
Well, that,
right before the next meeting? I mean, sometimes, so we'd have maybe time to respond and send in input or without.
good idea,
formal meeting.
good idea. We shall try to do that. We didn't get this to you, but we didn't think that it was too heavy of a reading. So, but the next,
There's a lot to think about.
True.
Keep thinking this. Start thinking more.
all right, so, but you all are getting the idea here of the way this is going. We need to put this stuff in the plan, but at the end of the day, your council's gonna vote on this, yes or no. And if they don't vote for it, it ain't gonna get done. But they have appointed you to do the heavy lifting on this, so let's send something to them.
I didn't mean to cut off. Did you have?
No, I was gonna say, we're talking with the folks that are doing the update to the Parks and Trails plan. So that we're syncing up this idea of this off.
What signage?
I'm sorry,
My signage consultants.
I didn't know you had a different consultant on
So
it.
it ended up with a plan, it's the signage might find.
Oh, like, those
Oh,
gateway
yeah.
treatments, those kinds of things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can test the bars, so, else.
So that and then do it.
Yeah, they've already talked to.
Yeah, we were on the phone 2 days ago.
It'd be great having all these plans going. but
Yeah,
maybe-
we're trying to sink them in.
Yeah,
I'm gonna adjourn the meeting, but I'm gonna adjourn it with the idea that we're gonna go on and we'll see you all when we get a little more substance and flesh some of this stuff out.
are we gonna do any feedback now or what?
Well,
I mean, after.
yeah, if you wanna give us feedback, please, by the way, send it to, are we sending it to Rick or send it to Erica?
Send it to me.
Okay, send it to Erica. Anybody that doesn't have her email, send it to her, and she's the clearinghouse. So please, absolutely, please, if you all wanted to provide some more substantive comments, please do. Because now's the time that is valuable debate when we haven't set it in stone and hadn't gone. Frankly, after we go to this public open house that's scheduled the next one, we're supposed to have some ideas of what we're proposing. And it would be a good idea if we kind of had some consensus among the group that this is what we wanted to do before we shift it to the public.
Is it possible to meet again before August?
Yes, we are. We are gonna put, short of, yes, we're gonna come up with some more dates. We'll get them to you. We have to get availability and all this kind of stuff. Now, the next one we meet is gonna be the peak season, so we're gonna be sleeping in a tent out on the beach. But we'll-
SDR?
we got, maybe one of you all can get us an SDR. But anyway, yes, we will have, the short answer is yes, we're gonna meet again. We got too much at stake in this to, I mean, let's spend an extra meeting and do it.
And you have a council.
Yeah, here, look here. Good. Talk to you. Maybe some here. All right, so, but we're making some headway. We're talking about really important issues. We're starting to address these things. Yes, everybody, we're starting to get into really important issues and yes. Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about everyone having a packet. We have not participated in the packet. Is this basically what y'all are, what's up here?
Yes, I think so.
So we're good to go with this?
Yes.
Can we get a copy of that map?
Well, it's on the.
Is it?
And it could be in the information you got.
Is it?
email? It's in your email.
Yeah.
Not once.
If you, have you gone?
That's the map right there.
Well, yeah, I printed the whole thing out. I have this map, which is that map. I'm
Oh.
talking about that map.
That's a zoom in with that map. Okay.
Oh, it's just zoomed in. Because, yeah, this is really hard to read.
Okay, got it.
I
got it.
understand.
Yes, ma'am, we can get that larger view of it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, ma'am.
yeah. I think that-
All right, y'all are helping us. We're trying to work for you. We're trying to listen, so. But you gotta tell us, we're, as good as we are, we can't read your minds. and we appreciate you telling us we're on base, we're off there, really. All right, that's all I got. Anybody got any closing remarks?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think he's been cheerleading.
Bye.
He's hungry. I'm starving.
Where are you going?
No, I'm cooking
Thank you for your comments.
I'm in Denver.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's what's happening tonight. Gold center.
Mostly ready.
I like the neat center of my, speed dial.
I got Domino's.
Oh, yeah.
So are you gonna go first?
Yes.
Tomorrow, I think so.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What, yeah, what day?
Also, I can work
Yeah, well, I think actually, some of kind of new and understand. But then, you don't get hard.
So I was like, that's not fine. It's a Gatorade.
And then, for some, looking at the whole thing every summer. I think we did have some.
I bet we did. Close 70%.
I know, they had like.
Yeah, okay, so now I see that that is, but I had my glasses. Where's my magnifying?
Yeah.
The street names are.
Yes, ma'am, you're right.
Yes, the weekend.
The weekend. Send,
I'm still learning.
Yes, it is.
So is this.
Yes.
Here, so. And say, yes.
I think we got the message. We need to broaden it out already.
That's 50 years ago.
I know. Well,
That's what members are now.
but in defense of us, we're trying to start with.
But when they because, I guess I still haven't done what it is. And then there's other residents. Yeah, what's the meaning?
But anyway, yes, what's the,
What's the significance?
and what's really left total other than sitting there?
Yes. Yeah. There's more
So anyway, there's a lot of like good people for something that's really Michelle. I think we're maybe issue. I think we'll end up with something that we can really get to the public and we've done it in this one. And sometimes some of this, I don't know.
Right.
But if you try.
Yeah.
And we don't try, it's really easy to do this for us. Let's. I'll try to do something.
It seems like the comfort. And I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 good ideas float to the top.
Well,
But never seen it. But things were not quite as critical in this. There was a lot of, there was a lot, you know, big stars down.
thanks for guiding. Hey, yeah, you're reasonable.
Well, I've lived here a long time, so I have my own perspective.
Okay.
Just-
Thank you, Sam.